When I tell you that that is a differentiator right now when looking for candidates, it can be up to 50% of candidates that will walk away from an offer based on the recruitment experience they have. It can be up to 80% through the onboarding process if they have a difficult time onboarding as well, and training once they get to that orientation. So we think so much about pay rates, we think so much about our job descriptions, we think so much about gathering those applications, but what is the candidate experience actually like when they're applying to your jobs, right? Because you can have the best pay rate, but if it's a real pain to go through your process, it's going to rub people the wrong way. Just like the first interaction you have with anything really leaves a telltale sign in your mindset of that company itself or that process of itself. And so I was really inspired by this concept, and listening to Insight, shout out to Brad and Matt on Insight's Haley Marketing podcast, but they talked about the candidate experience a couple weeks ago. Now, as an entrepreneur business owner, it's been some time since I went through that. So yes, I can look at what my personal process with our company is, but that's few and far between. Have I actually gone through the process as a candidate in a while? And so I decided to launch a case study and apply to 10 different jobs, not only at agencies, but also local companies, to see what my experience was like. When I tell you guys that the results to me were extremely eye-opening, I mean it. And I come from a place of love always. So this is not to rag on anyone, but this is to help people who do want to make that change really differentiate yourself in the industry. So out of my 10 places I applied to, 8 of these were setting up an online account. They were 35 to 50 questions and also attaching my resume and cover letter. So this process took me about 25 minutes on average to complete. Okay, these are all entry-level roles, entry-level industrial roles, 25 minutes application. And then after that, I got one generic canned response from these 8 companies that did have that process. The questions that they were asking within the first page were criminal background, social security number, if I had reliable transportation. Nothing was about me and what I was looking for. It was all what I could offer to them. And then out of the 10, only one agency reached out and responded to me personally. It was one response only, did not follow up after, but it was 1 out of 10 was a personal response to a candidate. That's 10%. So we talk about all of these things with gathering applications, why people aren't applying to our jobs. And then our response rate when they do was extremely alarming to me. And so through that, it really just got me thinking how important it is to set the right expectation, because it's the first interaction that this candidate's going to have with your company. So why are we not in a consumer mindset when thinking about the candidate experience? I always think back to Amazon. Although I know there's probably some mixed feelings about them, I will tell you that I do not have a lot of time and usually end up purchasing things for the sole convenience of it. However, I can tell you right now, if they had a process that did not say buy now button, and I had to input my card number and information and shipping address every time, I probably would not be buying as much as I am regularly on Amazon. And so the consumer mindset wants things to be streamlined. So we have to keep that in mind when doing our employee process and application process. I started to think the why of this, right? Why are these companies wanting to gather all of this information? It was very obvious to me by the URLs of the applications that it's to put this information in their applicant tracking system, or ATS. But half of the information I gave personally was incorrect. So I can only imagine that if you're trying to get through some process, you're going to kind of skim and not do the best job. So it's going to lead to inaccurate information anyways in your applicant tracking system. So then you're getting all of this information that isn't even correct or relevant anyways. And so who is this really easiest for? Is it easiest for the recruiting agency or the company or the recruiter? Or is it easy for the candidate and really taking into consideration their experience going through that process? Take into consideration your first impression to this person. My tip number one would be a fast application process. Can this be done in under 2 minutes? What is the bare minimum information you need to be able to communicate with this candidate and then open the door to those questions that you need? Number two is going to be your follow-up. Are you reaching out with an actual personal response? Now, I am all about AI. I'm all about technology. I am all about automating whatever tasks that we can. But in a world right now where everything is, why not be a little different and take that time to be personal? That's what's going to differentiate you, and I stand by that, is still the personal touch of an actual person. I think that if you're going to be that point of contact through someone, you have to understand this person is giving you the time to talk about employment. That's a huge thing to someone. It's how they provide for themselves, how they provide to them families. We owe them more than a canned automated response saying thanks for setting up your profile if you truly want these candidates. I know some people will say, well, if they want the job, they'll go through the process. That can be your mindset, but if your competitor is doing things a little bit easier and tailoring their process around the candidate, what is that going to mean for you? And who will that candidate go with? So I encourage you to go through your own hiring process. Set some time aside, go through your process and say, if I was an unbiased person coming to this role, what are some things that come to mind the first time I read the job application, the first time I apply, the emails that I get? Was someone reaching out to me? How did it make me feel?